For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. And for those of you that have been with us from the beginning, welcome back. This is our Startup Founders panel, and beside me, I have some incredible founders of businesses, some of which started actually last year, and they are doing incredibly well. And I'm going to give them the opportunity right now to introduce themselves to you and a little about their business also. So Simon and Joanna.
Would you like me to start?
Yeah,
Okay, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Simon and this is Joanna, and
Hi.
We are Each and Every. So we are a British luxury footwear brand, which started during the pandemic. And, the point of difference for us, and it really, was such a big thing for us to keep us going through the pandemic, is that, we're a fashion footwear brand that concentrates as much on the aesthetics of a shoe as it is to wear. And I know, I spend loads of time sort of speaking to men to try to get them to understand how important that is. But, the vision for me is that when a woman reaches for a pair of shoes that she absolutely adores, that she really just loves the look of, she doesn't have this niggly, irking feeling in the back of her mind as to how that's going to feel in the next 2 or 3 hours, or just straight away as she puts them on. So we founded this brand because we felt that the fashion brands just weren't doing enough to actually address this problem, and through the pandemic, I think we've really felt that there's now been a bit more of a reflection on what it is that's important to us. And there's no doubt that well-being, I think, has really emerged as something that is as equally important as, the way that we express ourselves through the way we look. And so for us, it is so challenging, I think, to be able to be a fashion brand, to say that actually, we stand for more than just looking great. Because, there are heaps of brands out there that are doing that. We are such a big supporter of, how do you actually feel when you wear your shoes? And that's really our proposition.
So I'm Joanna. I'm the designer of Each and Every. And I think it's interesting when Simon mentioned that fashion brands were not doing enough, and I'm not doing enough to think about comfort when they are designing shoes. I have been designing shoes for more than 12 years, and I have been working for all the traditional luxury brands, like from Vivienne Westwood, Comme des Garçons, Karl Lagerfeld, Jeremy Scott, all these brands, designing shoes, doing collaborations projects. And for all these years, I never thought about comfort when I was designing a shoe. And I know it's like, what's the point? But it's just because for me to design a beautiful shoe, especially high heels, I love high heels, was only about the style, was only about to design the best look and not think about comfort. But then we know how many stories do we have. Like I was in a wedding and then I was so uncomfortable that I have to change my beautiful sandal for a flip-flop. I already have this, changing like my own designs for flip-flops. And I was like, no, it's not possible. Then when I met Simon, he told me everything about Each and Every. Was like, is it possible? Why we never put some effort on this? Why the other brands are not doing this? Why I haven't tried to do more as a designer? And then that's why we are doing it Each and Every. We have been developing the best technologies to be able to design the best shoes and not to have to compromise in the comfort in either the style. So that's it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amelia.
I'm Amelia. I started Bijou Domini a year ago in June. It is a jewellery brand and specialises in 14-karat gold-plated huggy hoops. And everything's very colourful, which is sort of where the niche is. I feel like I can't talk about it as much as you guys can. But I'm just quite lucky because it's blown up. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you. And Annie.
Yeah, so I'm Annie. I have what I'm calling a baby brand compared to everyone else. I launched Anula on the 31st of May this year. It's what I call a timeless classic women's wear brand, really focusing on slow fashion and not trends, and everything's made using recycled fabrics. I felt there was a gap when I graduated. I went into the corporate world and I found it so hard to find clothing that was flattering but appropriate in a corporate world, good quality but not, at that really high-end designer price point.
Right.
And I used to spend so long searching for clothes, to the point where people would often ask me where I'd found them and everything, because I was putting so much time into it. And it was obviously something that other people were struggling with too.
Right.
So it was always in the back of my mind, those things you tell yourself, like one day maybe, or like if I could do anything, I would. And then, when the pandemic happened, I hate mentioning it, but I just had more time to think about things. And so I officially launched on May the 31st. And it's also like going to your point around, it's not just about aesthetics, it's about functionality as well, and solving problems that I found personally when I was in, not just in the workplace, but wearing other things. So, having to tuck your shirt into your pencil skirt or trousers. So at the moment we launched a capsule collection and everything has kind of an elasticated hem that you can fold under. So you don't have to tuck it in, and it solves everything. And having things, like lace up waist details, so you can tighten that depending on what your body shape is. Got really big dreams, but just starting out at the moment, but really excited to be here.
Thank you. And that's really incredible. And I think we want to know more about what you all do and your incredible businesses. And of course, our previous panel, for those of you that weren't able to join us, or for those of you that were, we had our female founders, speak about it not just being about, having a product, the best product, and having the latest this and the latest that. It's really about creating that thing that, the customer really wants. And also what is important now as well is that customers, people that are buying into these brands, they want to know about the person behind the brand, and which is what you are all doing so incredibly. And I think what you all have in common actually is the fact that you're very big on sustainability and it not being a now product. You've kind of seen ahead, you want it to last the distance. So tell me more about that, Joanna and Simon. I think when we spoke, you were saying that it wasn't that you just want them to buy something for now, you want a shoe for forever, for a long time. So talk to us about that.
So I'll start and then you can continue, because you got some good stories. So when you really think about it, and it's not just women, it's men too. We are all guilty of making that flash purchase because we need something for an event, or for some reason we've got it in our heads that we need that particular shoe. I'm wearing a pair right now where I know I want that style and I want it for an event. And when I try it on, it's not great, but I think to myself, I'm gonna do it. And then eventually, a week later, I try them on again, and they are horrid. And they end up staying in the back of your wardrobe, and you can't throw them out straight away. You've got like 2 years go by and go, okay, now I can throw them out. This sort of problem exists specifically for footwear, because footwear is modeled around a concept where they take a standardized foot and extrapolate from there, so that you, in every size that you are, if you don't fit into their shoes, you're going to feel some level of discomfort. So for us, the whole premise of what we do is firstly getting the fit right. And that is such a big thing in footwear. So that's why we developed our unique 3 width system. So we have 3 widths for every size of shoe that we have. And that's the single biggest thing I think that we're offering the footwear industry right now. It's this: if we can get you into properly fitting shoes, there's a much bigger chance that they're not going to end up in the back of your wardrobe. Of course, the aesthetics are so super important. But ultimately, if you can't stand, like, pardon the pun, you can't stand them or stand in them, then, what is the likelihood that you're going to, pull them out time and time again? We absolutely want you to wear our shoes to death. That is the point of what we're trying to do. And in that way, we're asking you to, buy better, but buy less. I think that's our motto.
Yeah. With this thing about fitting, even myself as a designer and working with shoes for so many years, I always thought I was a size, but then after started working with each and every, I actually measure my foot and realize I was always wearing the wrong size. I know, and then trust me, if you try to do the same, I can even measure your foot for you, girls, but it's like probably you'll find out the same thing because the industry only say you wear one size, but not actually you have the width and the length. So there's completely change when you are wearing a shoe. And then that's why we feel like it's so important to have people on the right size and then to offer this opportunity, because especially like European fitting, it's too narrow for like the UK market, and every people has a different foot shape. So that's why we are trying to do like almost like a bespoke shoe for you, then you can wear it for a long time. So we invest a lot in the materials, the quality of the manufacturing. So we'll have a shoe that will make you feel good, will look good, and then will last.
I love that. Over to you, Amelia.
I mean, for us, we found that because it's like they're quite high quality, they're 14 karat gold plated, and they're also affordable. So for my audience, because it's sort of from teen to sort of early 20s, specifically, they can afford them and they're good products. So then they do last, but when they want more, they can buy more to wear together.
Yes.
And that's the whole concept that we go for. And I think that in the jewelry industry specifically, it's very hard to be sustainable because recycled metals are so expensive. So if I were to make my metals recycled, then my prices would just rocket, and then my audience would completely change, and they wouldn't be able to buy them anymore. So we're doing our bit by sort of like we've got recycled packaging, which is recyclable and recycled, and the same goes for the card holders. But yeah, I think it's quite a difficult problem to sort of approach and tackle, and it's up to every brand how they do it.
Yes, and that's something you look into doing, in the
Yeah,
future.
exactly.
Amazing, thank you. And Annie?
Yeah, I think sustainability is something that's, everyone's talking about at the moment. And like Amelia said, it's different for different brands. And I think we have to recognize that we're all on a journey with sustainability. As I said, we use recycled fabrics for our pieces. All our packaging is recycled, recyclable, or reusable. So really thinking about that as well, whilst almost, not compromising on the experience of receiving something in really nice packaging. We do, small batch production, and I think just really putting the thought into all of the pieces that we launch. So not, there are so many pieces I would love to design and produce and launch, but being really thoughtful about what they are, what fabrics are they made in that will mean they'll last. What colors do we launch them in so that they'll fit into wardrobes and you can wear them time and time again. So that's something that we really think about. I mean, when we first launched in May, we launched with a capsule collection, and it was just 3 pieces, a pair of trousers, a skirt, and a jumper, and they all go together perfectly. And then we launched them in a second color. So keeping it really, really small collection sizes to begin with. I think when you're first starting out, you want to understand your audience, and as you continue to launch more and get to know your audience more, you know what they like, and you know where maybe there might be more popularity around a product, which will also mean you're not getting products left over, and that kind of thing. But it's definitely a massive focus.
Amazing. And being that, of course, you're the newest business on the panel, but are you finding that it's, I suppose for yourself, like I said, you're a new business, but for, let's say, Simon and Joanna and yourself, Amelia, are you finding that your customer, your clientele, they differ now? as opposed to, you know, when you first started out? Are you now trying to learn what the customer is looking for? So between, you know, last year and this one, there's actually been so many changes, and fashion is always ongoing. So what is it that you're doing to make sure that you always know what the customer wants, and have you noticed a difference?
I mean, for me, because I launched in May,
Yeah.
it's hard to say if there was a shift, but I think just doing your research and knowing about what's going on in the industry and the space is really important. I mean, I think we all got used to wearing comfy clothes all the time. Last year, I know I did. So when we were sampling, I even had things made. So these kind of smart trousers and pencil skirt, I had them made in a jumper fabric to see if you could do that kind of smart workwear look, but in, you know, a really comfy fabric, and it did work. But actually, it was just as comfy as the pieces in the material that I'd already chosen anyway. But it's doing things like that. So, you know, that's always in the back of my mind in terms of, you know, the massive loungewear trend that grew. And then I think just understanding what's going on at the moment. So, you know, I know for lots of my audience, people are starting to go back into the office now. Some people are worried about going back into the office. What will they wear? And back to that comfort piece, I think it's about not compromising on comfort, even for aesthetics. And I think we'd all agree on that.
Definitely. And Amelia, of course, same question for you. You just celebrated your brand's 1-year birthday as well. So tell us.
So for us, I don't think my audience has changed hugely. It's just grown.
Right.
So it started with a small amount and like mainly UK, and then sort of as our socials went viral and things like that, then the audience sort of grew massively, but the same age group pretty much. And then, or if it's not the girls, then it's their mums for them, or for example. And sort of with that, it's grown hugely as an audience, but I wouldn't say the sort of type of people have changed at all. In terms of listening to what they want, I think that's the most important thing, sort of seeing what they like and going by that. For example, I always get told that there should be more silver, but it's quite annoying because as soon as I bring silver out, like the gold always sells out and the silver never does. But yeah, no, so just like doing whatever they want, like cut loads more colors, like I'm bringing out more silver again, and yeah, just sort of whatever they're asking for.
Thank you. And Simon and Joanna.
I would say, like, one of the advantages of being a man who creates shoes for women is I take nothing for granted. In a lot of ways, this whole journey is a discovery process as to who the customer is, and we're not that much older than you, Amelia. We also launched this year, and to be completely honest, I think we are absolutely still finding who that customer is. I mean, we've got customers, but you know, what are the threads that sort of pull them together? So I think that it's really interesting, particularly as a startup, because in our type of startup anyway, we don't have millions of pounds to throw at advertising. So you do have to formulate an idea as to who your customer is, and then try to connect with them. And I think that is probably the biggest challenge for us at the moment, in trying to connect to the customer profiles that we believe make up our audience. And I think one of the reasons why we're here today is that I think we are really putting a lot more focus on developing real relationships. And I think there's been so much buzz about get yourself on social media and do a great job of that. I think we've gone down that path, and we haven't I think had the best success, or the success that we would love. So for us, we are going to reestablish ourselves at a more grassroots level. Create a community that exists around us that really, really loved and support the brand.
Absolutely.
And then start from there to grow it out, because trying to do it on social media, I think without a huge budget, I think it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, for a design starting point, I always look at our range, and when I was designing the shoes, I was thinking about the women's that will be wearing the shoes, and not about like the trends I want to communicate in my shoes. Was more like what these women do. She has like important meetings. She needs to be confident. She needs to feel comfortable. She will take the tube. She will take a bus. You know what she's doing, or maybe she has kids. She needs to do all these run out and do all these things, because it's like I don't want just to design beautiful shoes. I always think about the lifestyle of these women. I want them to wear these shoes and go to the same shoe throughout the day and not do like a lot of changes and carry trainers and then have to do this. So this is also part of why we want to build a community, because I want then these women, us, to connect. And then, so for me, my design process will be more meaningful because then I have them as inspiration, the whole community. And it's like me right now, I'm just thinking about me, my friends, and the women I know, and how they want to wear shoes or heels. So yeah, I think it's really important community for us.
Definitely, I agree with the community part. I think that's a very vital part of the business. Let's talk skills needed to start and continue a business. Now, what are some key skills that you've even picked up that perhaps you didn't think you had or didn't have before since launching your businesses? You can go ahead.
Yeah, I can start. It's interesting because, of course, I love design, but when I met Simon, I told him I always love the business side of fashion. So I used to do collaborations between brands and product collaborations. And working for a startup and being part of startup is so good because you can test yourself with so many different roles, because it's not like we have a big team. So it's like we do stylists, we do campaign, creative direction, and then part of the business, and then start to do some marketing, social media, a lot of different things, which is also really exciting because I'm so in love about this brand and this business that everything is so good to learn together and to feel like how can I do different, because it's a small company and you can start to test some things and even to test yourself. What do I like the most? What do I don't like? But
So I came into this company after sort of 12 years as a corporate lawyer. So in terms of translatable skills, there aren't that many, I would say. So what that really meant for me is that, and not having the luxury of a huge team, is I do everything. And that, I think, is both the blessing and the curse of running a startup. It's your baby. You do whatever you need to do. Everything from, being here today to, packing up the shoes, and when we leave today, back to the shop, it's the full picture. And I think that for me, in terms of, I wouldn't say it's a skill necessarily, but what I've had to learn is patience.
Yes.
That I think, definitely when you have a dream and you are so excited to make that happen,
right.
You want it now, you want it, everything has to be, perfect. And, for your own mental kind of, well-being, you do have to take a step back and see it as a growing entity. It's not something that you just, it's not a painting that you create overnight.
Yes.
It's always growing, it's always developing. And it's very easy to see something, and not like the picture today and just be like, oh God, what am I doing?
Yes.
So that's what I would say is the most valuable thing I've learned so far.
Thank you. I think patience is definitely a good one. I think you definitely got to have that. You've got to be able to see ahead, just like you were saying. So, you might not like something today, but you have to be able to see past that point. So absolutely. And Amelia?
Well, I was only a year out of school when I started last year.
Wow.
So I had absolutely no business skill set whatsoever.
Is entrepreneurship in your family?
Yeah, it is, but it's actually thanks to the one on the end up there that I sort of learned anything to do with business. My boyfriend.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I absolutely knew nothing before I started, and then Tarks taught me lots of stuff to start, like building a website, which I was actually terrified to do at the start, and then I found out it was quite easy. And then from there, I've learned everything since, from, I don't know, contacting influencers to sort of
And
all
of
the
this in a
social
year.
stuff and having a shop on Oxford Street and all of that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've learned everything, but I didn't know anything before.
That's amazing. And I think that gives a lot of people hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Annie?
Yeah, I mean, I had no experience in the fashion industry at all. I think for me, a lot of it is about having that drive and passion and determination that will keep you going, and that resilience where, you know, you're recognizing that it's not necessarily going to be an overnight success. In fact, that's very rare that happens. And that's what we see a lot of the time on social media. But I think, you know, behind the scenes, you just have to keep going and work hard really consistently. I think it's also about self-awareness and recognizing where your strengths are, and maybe then where you can get support or delegate, or, you know, rope in family and friends to help you where they can. But I mean, and then also a hunger to learn, because there's so much that you don't know. Even if you do have experience in the fashion industry already, you're constantly learning, and I think you just have to have that openness and willingness to, you know, what's the saying, like, put your gloves on and just get stuck into it.
Absolutely.
So I think that those are big important things that have played a key role for me.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Joanna, Simon, Amelia and Annie, for joining us for the Startup Founders panel. You can see these amazing founders in WTC actually at some point. If you're here today, you will actually see Simon and Joanna, and you'll also see Amelia in your copies. Of course, for those of you at home, this will be available digitally, and then you can also request your free copy from Monday. So that's very exciting. And then Annie's actually coming up as well. So very, very exciting. Very, very happy to have you all on this panel. And thank you all. We'll join the journalists in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you.